Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Thursday and we have to talk about the Acolyte, so let's jump right into it. Once again, we're going to be talking about the Acolyte, the latest episode to air, and once more, I must warn you, there will be spoilers. You can't talk about this show without talking about the things that have happened in the show so far and the things that happen in this episode, because it all is very essential when discussing it. I have really been enjoying this show and enjoying talking to you guys about it. So let's get into the latest episode and what it brought to the table. Now, this is episode 7 of the show, and it is called Choice. This is once more a flashback episode. The last flashback episode we got was 3, and it was told from the viewpoint of the witches, more or less. And this episode kind of tells you the Jedi part of things. And you find out, just like everyone has been saying about the series, that you start off with an unreliable narrator. And unreliable narrators are very essential to some murder mysteries. Some types of mysteries require them because they make finding out who the killer is or what the mystery is that much harder. And in the case of this particular setup, we found out, the audience, that what we thought went down didn't go down exactly like we thought. Part 3, a lot of people didn't like because they thought that in episode 3 that we were getting this viewpoint that the Jedi had somehow turned bad, that the Jedi were the bad guys going around taking children from people and all of this. That is not at all what was being said in that episode, but that's also not at all what you get here. When it's told from the Jedi standpoint, it really does change things. Now, the Jedi are there to look for a divergence in the Force. Now, a divergence in the Force has people thinking, oh, Anakin. That doesn't have to be true. It's something that carries a lot of Force power that causes a divergence, and that's what they're looking for when they go to this planet. Now, they don't really know what they're looking for when they get there, and this episode explains that. They are kind of camping out. They're more ready to leave than anything else. In fact, Torben really does want to leave. Torben wants to leave this place so bad he can taste it. And basically, that's where a lot of the problems start in the episode, because you're dealing with a Padawan who now is having questions, who's now having thoughts about, why are we here? Why are we doing what we're doing? And then you also have Saul, who feels bad because he doesn't have a Padawan. And Dara kind of is talking to him and doesn't make things that much better. She's telling him, well, there's a reason you don't have a Padawan. But he is sort of wants an adventure. He goes in looking for something noble to do, something that he can actually sink his teeth into to show just what a great Jedi he is. Now, keep in mind that during this time, the Jedi were not the Jedi we know. They are not the very well put together Jedi we know. They have made mistakes. And the thing is, they have so much power across the galaxy, essentially, that these mistakes are easily covered up. And I think that's kind of a telling point about the series, because this is how we got to the point we get to in Star Wars lore, where the Jedis become everything they're supposed to be. Now, it's important to note here that Saul, wanting to go on an adventure, wanting to show he's a great Jedi, stumbles upon the twins. He sees them using Force magic just the way we saw in that first flashback we got. We see that scene again, but through his eyes. He immediately tells the others what he saw, that he thinks they are a divergence in the Force, and they might be why they're sent here. They might be needing to be rescued. He feels as though these witches are holding these kids hostage. He is told by the council after they address the council to walk away from this. But he can't walk away from this. In his gut, he knows he's right, that these kids are in danger, and he cannot go through and allow these kids to be in danger. Meanwhile, they decide that they are going to maybe just forget about it until Torben decides that he cannot forget about this. He has to go. He has to go and find these twins. He has to go and help so that he can go home. That's really what he wants. He wants to go back to the Jedi Temple. He's done with this adventure, and that's kind of what it is. So basically, he goes off. Saul goes after him. They start the events that cause everything that we saw in the episode 3. Needless to say, what they end up doing ends up causing all of the events that happened. The fire and everything. And not only that, I mean, don't get me wrong. May starts this fire. But you see this scared little girl who really just wants to put this fire out afterwards. She don't want to have this fire going, but the Jedi are there, and they cause a disturbance within the witches' little area that in turn makes them unable to acknowledge she's there. In fact, Saul mistakes her for Osha when he sees her. And this is kind of a thing too. He mistakes her for Osha. Well, this puts the witches in a place where they feel now they have to defend themselves, so they proceed to start to do that. Now, the thing of it is that a lot goes down. The witches are all killed. You know this, but essentially, what does this all mean? Because a lot of people's problem with this episode is where do they go from here? Because if the Jedi did all this bad stuff, wasn't intentional, doesn't make the Jedi bad, and does this break canon at all? We still have no answer as to how these twins exist. And we still have no answer in terms of any of it. We don't know how they're going to explain this to the Jedi Council. We don't know any of that so far. So the last episode is coming up. And the last episode has a lot to explain. Here's the thing about that. Where does this series come from? How is this series connected to anything Star Wars? All those explanations are important, but to know how to handle Star Wars, you first also have to know where they take a lot of their inspiration from. Filoni was once asked, how do you write for Star Wars? He said, well, you have to be a movie buff and you have to know your history. So essentially, in order to write for Star Wars, you have to know a lot of old movies, a lot of obscure movies. Mostly they take from samurai and that type of thing because those are really about warriors. And at the heart of things, Star Wars is about warriors. Now, The Mandalorian definitely takes from Lone Wolf and Cub. So what does The Acolyte take from? Well, there is a movie called Come Drink With Me, an Oriental movie called Come Drink With Me. And if you watch that movie and you watch the Acolyte TV series, they do follow very closely. It was given by the creator of the series as one of her inspirations for this show to kind of take from that movie. So everybody who says that she's not a Star Wars fan, that she's not writing something that is worth your time, she's doing exactly what the other writers in the Star Wars universe do. She has actually taken from an old movie. And that old obscure movie that she took from is kind of the starting point for Acolyte. That's kind of the basis for the overall plot. Everything that's kind of touched on is there in a roundabout way. Now, it doesn't take exactly from the movie. So if you watch the movie, you'll kind of notice some of the same beats, but you won't notice all of it, because just like in every Star Wars movie, the things they take from don't really matter because they are ultimately changing stuff enough to give you something new, something that you've never seen before. And we are supposed to get a second Sith in this, and I think we're going to see that in the final episode. I think that that's going to be the answer to some of the questions that we have, and that's going to kind of tell us where to expect this whole thing to go. It may also tell us exactly where May and Osha come from. However, this is the thing. This series had a lot of things that told us that the Jedi weren't as good as they are later on. And that's not taken away from Star Wars canon. That is very important to Star Wars canon. From one of the Padawans wanting to go home, to Master Endora telling Soul that he don't have a Padawan because of his behavior. Essentially, they're kind of not the Jedi they should be. But we knew they weren't the Jedi they should be. That don't come until a little bit later. Now, what makes this important and what makes this vital is that there are still a few surprises coming up in this series. And I've been enjoying this series a lot. And I thought this episode was great because it has shades of Luke Skywalker and the whole Ben Solo scene. Because if you remember, that was kind of told from an unreliable narrator too, except that turned out to be very divisive because fans didn't really know how to take it. I know fans are kind of in the same boat about these flashbacks. They won't really know how to take them. Just know that an unreliable narrator means that either side could be telling parts of the truth, but it's not until you have both parts of the truth that you get to the actual truth. Everyone lied about something in their version of the truth, but they didn't mean to. They didn't know any better. From one point of view, they saw it a completely different way. And that's what this episode was about. I fully expect that the next episode we will find out who the second Sith Lord is. I do expect that we'll have a few surprises. That is where I'm going to leave it off to you guys. I want to know what you guys thought of this episode. What was your favorite part? What did you like? What didn't you like? And what do you think is going to happen next? As always, we want to hear from you, so don't forget to leave us that comment in the comment box below. Don't forget to share this video with all of your friends. They're definitely going to want to be a part of the conversation as well. Don't forget to hit that like button. It's free, it helps the channel, and we really do appreciate it. Miko says we need more subscribers, and look at this face. You don't want to disappoint Miko, so go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell while you're down there so you don't miss a single video we do. Then friends, at the end of the day, I know you know and Miko knows that fandom is family.